over to Phenom. Phenom, apparently this guy knows you, or maybe he knows about you. But yeah, man, he's taking screenshots. He's a big fan. He likes wee-wees.
Well, what I want to say is I'm afraid it's going to be a huge letdown. I was curious if you guys have talked about the Iranian spies. Apparently, I think it was, can't remember who reported it, but that was in the Biden administration. I guess they let.
No, it hasn't been brought up. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I was curious is, okay, so Paul Sperry about, I don't know, 6 months ago reported that his sources said that the Biden DOJ was at the Mar-a-Lago raid was also after Trump's papers on Iran about dismantling Obama's Iran nuclear deal, and that Jake Sullivan, he feels was behind that, but that Jake Sullivan's wife is the top counselor to Merrick Garland. Her name is Maggie Goodlander. And so I just think that's just kind of an interesting connection. And I just wondered if you guys had talked about that. Just a lot of kind of paint by numbers there.
Yeah, no, we haven't talked about it yet. I think in the coming days and weeks, there's probably going to be some stuff that's going to come to light, but I'm not really sure. Where did the whole, if we know, this is kind of question to the speaker panel, how did the whole Iranian backing come today? I mean, besides the fact that the guy went on fucking TV and made some comments, was there anything else, or was it, okay, Kyle, that was it? Okay, so.
Well, let me just add, so do you think that
sure.
Since that guy, the main spy, it was like 5 days ago he was let go, so do you think this sudden payout or unfreezing, whatever you want to call it, of funds happened because they panicked that they didn't have them in there anymore? Like, do you see a correlation there?
Yeah, when was the money unfrozen? And Congressman George Santos is
September
here tonight,
11th.
So good to see him.
Yeah, it was September 11th, the day everyone definitely remembers.
Gotcha. Yeah, let me head up to Sarah real quick, and then I want to head over to the congressman real quick. Sarah, go ahead.
So, Crypto and Mark, I dropped a video into your inboxes regarding the naval attacks. Okay. I don't want to post it, but you guys can take a look at it and decide. It comes from the enemy.
Okay, thanks. I'll look at it.
Yeah.
All right.
The naval attacks on Israel?
Naval attacks on Israel.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Okay.
All right. So, real quick though, if he is still around,
one quick question. There's a naval attack from the enemy that is Hamas. This is from the outdoor prison that they can't escape from because there's an ocean on one side, and then there's a nation of Egypt on the other side, and then there's Israel, and they can't escape from the outdoor prison. Is this the same place? But they have boats?
Yeah, they have boats here.
Right. Tracking. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a rough prison. This reminds me of that Ray Liotta movie. Did you guys ever see that one?
So I'm watching it right now. They're leaving on boats. They have RPGs. They're in a bathroom. They've killed everyone in the bathroom. Everyone's dead. I'll just give you a voice narration. There's only 20 seconds left more of the video. Now they're walking out of the bathroom. There's trucks outside.
Crypto, can you send that video to me, please?
Is that yeah, of course, George. Of course, Congressman. They're now driving away with the RPGs, and looks like, I can't tell what kind of gun it is at the end, but it's definitely a long gun.
You're not exactly an expert on that.
No, I'm not, because I like my Glocks, and you don't like that, Kyle.
Yeah. Do you see any lawnmower suits? Do you see any?
No, but I do see to quote the famous Malcolm Nance, I do see fast movers though, Mark.
Oh, fast movers.
Love that.
I saw. Yep, he was in. Good.
What do you think he benches? What do you think Malcolm benches?
Not a lot. Let me, while he's here and we have him,
maybe
and
Emmy.
then I'm going to hit the hands, and I'm going to send this over to the congressman. Congressman Santos, how has? I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Are you going to owe me $100, Congressman? Have we updated our bet?
I didn't bet anything, Mark. I told you I didn't know if I can bet anything.
Hypothetically,
was
would
Kyle.
you owe me $100?
I guess
it's not looking good.
it's not looking good. Absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Let me do this.
I actually was considering not coming into space because I figured you'd say that.
Look, I get it. There's ethics considerations. I wouldn't I wouldn't break your balls over it too much, but it's still funny.
I guess. I mean, is it funny though? I don't know.
I think we're living in the biggest sort of cosmic comedy right now. How could we not be? I mean, all comedies come from a very sad place. That's really
true. Comedy does stem from
just utter tragedy.
I mean, look, I just kind of came in to listen a little bit, probably chime in, but I don't have much to say other than I've been watching like everyone else in absolutely disbelief of what's going on. And it hurts when I read people in government apologize for Hamas and they're apologists for terrorists. And God forbid you call them out on, I mean, the anti-Semitism is oozing out of the Democrat Party, unfortunately. I hate making this political, but I have seen some of my colleagues, actually, Jared Moskowitz has been at the front lines of, the party. I think if you're trying to look for a real message coming out of the Democrat Party, that's who you should be looking at, and not at Rashida Tlaib and AOC. Let's just establish that. But I'm not going to talk politics here. I'm going to talk human lives. I've been since 8 a.m. this morning, back and forth, and 8 a.m. because that's, it's a Sunday, and I am human, and I woke up at 8 a.m. But I had messages from 4 o'clock in the morning in my WhatsApp from students from my district who are in Israel right now, and very common. They go there once they're 18 to do some yeshiva studies and whatnot. Long story short, it's been like I can't share the messages, I guess, out of privacy to them and the content of the messages. But I've been back and forth with the State Department today through our congressional hotline, just as a member. I don't care about the whole, have staff do it. Fuck that. I just do it myself. I jump on the phone. I know the questions I got to ask. And I'm just trying to figure out what can we do. But unfortunately, as of now, there is no airlift planned to pull out American citizens as of now. That was the last update I got from the State Department. So the order, essentially, even for our own personnel, American personnel at our embassy and consulates, is just shelter in place in a safe place and await further instructions. I can't imagine being 18 years old, going somewhere to study, and having to deal with this, especially coming from the district that they live in, which is my district. It's been just very heartbreaking, and then to see all these victims and all the videos I think we're all seeing coming out of Gaza. I mean, look. Hate, it's really easy to allow hatred to take over your sentiments and your feelings in moments like this, and a lot can be said in a moment of passion, in a moment of anger, but I think I rather apologize. I rather forgive somebody who said something a little out of tune than somebody who's out there defending the Palestinians and Hamas. And I don't know if that's forgivable versus somebody who says something a little off color or something in the moment of anger. And I think that's what we're really going to start looking at and seeing and having to analyze, because I hate to look like I'm deflecting, but I'm just going to point something out. Israel is right there in the middle of it all. If they were caught sleeping, can you only imagine the kind of danger that we're in on a national security front in this country right now? Can you only imagine the volume of people that are unvetted that has entered the United States in the last 2.5 years? It is very frightening. It should be a wake-up call. And I don't want to be part of the team that was caught sleeping, not after 9/11. We need to really start taking these things serious. I'm just going to let you guys go and talk it over here, but I really want to listen to what you all have to say, especially Kyle, since you were in the FBI. I'm really interested in seeing what's next. If Israel, that's in the middle of the thick of it all, was caught not so prepared, what can we expect at this point, especially with the amount of the unknown that we have happening in our country now?
So, Congressman, just real quick, we've obviously had our own fair share of terrorism here in the U.S., and that's when the border wasn't at the state that it's at now. Now, post 9/11, supposedly things tightened up, and then things got really loose, and they've been loose for 2-3 years now. And as you said, thousands, tens of thousands cross every day, unvetted. And at this point, I guess my question over to Congress would be, what, if anything, can Congress do when there's getaways and there's people who have crossed that have been unvetted? We have no idea who they are, and we've already had domestic and foreign terrorism here. We've already had the sleeper cells. Is there anything that could possibly even be done? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands now.
Yeah, there is. What's it called? It's telling our president to stop playing virtue signaling with our national security and actually deploy ICE, deploy the FBI, allow the FBI to actually go look for the bad guys and stop going after people who like to protest on lawns with peacefully. Focus your energy on people who can harm us. It's not hard to build profile on these guys. I think I'm just going to go off of assumptions here because I'm not the expert. Kyle here in the space has actually done this work. He can probably speak from firsthand experience, but it's not hard to understand that we have enough men and women who do fantastic work in the FBI and the CIA that can actually be doing that work right now instead of being distracted by nonsensical political persecutions and putting all of this effort into vetting and going through a fine comb of these people. I think every inch of this country at this point should be mapped out again and completely checked. I don't care if we go into a police state for a couple of months. And I know that sounds drastic and extreme, but I would not mind going block by block, house by house. Who are you? and I know that sounds absolutely crazy. And I get the crazy face reactions, and I kind of
does, yeah.
as I'm saying it. But you know what? What's
a little bit crazy, Congressman. But
Mark, I think it's crazy. But look at the times we're living at. Look at the amount of people that are going to hurt us.
Congressman, I was a police officer. Are you sending me and my friends to go knock on citizens' doors and say, "Hey"?
I'm not necessarily saying a blanket knock. I'm saying the FBI, CIA have the technology to go out there and pick up chatter on the airwaves, pick up phone calls, ping hotbeds for this kind of stuff. I'm not saying you're going to knock on 350 million people's doors or look at 350 million people. That's not. Let me clarify that before it sounds like I'm out batshit crazy. But I do believe we have enough technology, enough manpower to be out there making sure we know who is a potential person that opposes some kind of risk to this country. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that we put a full task force together, expand the already existing task force, and go out there and just do what they got to do. Look, I'm giving an opinion. I really want to see people give diversity of ideas. That's why I say I'll defer to folks like you, Mark. You're an officer. Kyle, you're former FBI agent. I think you guys have a lot better experience on that front. But I'm willing to vote for whatever protects this country from a congressional standpoint. Whichever idea comes to the floor that seems that it's going to make us safer, I'm going to vote for. Because at this point, it's our fundamental responsibility to keep every American citizen safe. Period.
Thanks, Congressman. If I have your ear, then I don't think that it is per se spying digitally or door knocks or opening up a police state or anything like that. I think that it would start with securing the border.
Of course.
And then from there, I also think there's a mentality that you have to have, which is government and legislation can't guarantee safety. There's an inherent responsibility amongst the people to protect themselves, right? And the over-reliance on your police and 911 or the government to prevent things, it continues to show us that time and time again, doesn't prevent a lot.
Mark, if government can't even uphold its first responsibility, which is public safety, then why are we spending millions and billions and trillions of dollars in government?
Right,
That's
but do
really
you think at a time when the U.S. population is really has concerns about the DOJ and the FBI, and many would argue this surveillance is going on now, that it's a good look to say, I'm going to sign a blank check to enable intelligence agencies in the U.S. to check everything? I mean,
well, look, I'll turn that back on you, Charles. Do you think it's going to be a good look if we have terrorist attacks breaking out through all our country within the next decade? I mean, I'd rather be part of the team that at least tried to prevent it and and did something about it than be part of the team that just said, well, you know, I'm not gonna put any kind of surveillance to try to find bad actors. I'm not saying to put surveillance on good law-abiding American citizens. I'm not saying suppress free speech. But if you're seeing people in the middle of Times Square to the tune of 600, 700 of them waving Palestinian flags and celebrating the actions that took place today and yesterday in Israel, I think that's a great place to start. Because
That's
if you're
lawful. Look, that may be seriously unpalatable, and maybe you disagree with behavior, but is otherwise lawful activity.
it's lawful activity and it was permitted too. Apparently there was a
But we're not going
permit
to use
issue for
lawful
it.
activity as probable cause to search people's
I
digital
don't know.
footprints.
I don't know, Mark. I think, look, like I said, I'm not the expert. I'm just throwing ideas out there. I see people cheering and celebrating terrorist activities. That might be a good indication that those people are, they share that ideology, and therefore I think it creates probable cause. You know
Jesus,
what?
Congressman.
Go ahead, Kyle. Chime in.
Yeah, I think you need to revisit what the oath says and what the Bill of Rights say, which is that our government stays out of these things. It has to be agnostic. The government has to remain agnostic about your opinions, regardless of how unpalatable those things may be. There's a reason why the ACLU in my lifetime used to defend Nazis and their ability to go and march. You're allowed to be an asshole in this country, it turns out, and we sort of that's sort of the celebrated difference of America as an experiment compared to the rest of the world. We don't get to trade that simply because we're a little bit concerned about somebody's bad ideas. The best answer is let them expose themselves. 700 people is very, very few people in a country of 340 or 350 million. They're an anomaly, and they're a rounding error, honestly. Like they're a rounding error even in that city that they were in. So that's the thing to remember. And you don't go and break down freedoms. The dangerous thing is this: the instinct is we're going to be held responsible if something happens when we're theoretically accountable for whatever's going on,
There's
but that
only
is not
one
the
in there.
case. Like there Okay, Red's looking for things in the pantry, but she's missing. They only got one more box of
I'm
cereal there.
sorry. I'm
Look,
sorry.
you derailed me, Red, but it's all right. I can catch right back onto that train. The scary thing is this. We have a responsibility as citizens to look out for our own personal safety. That's number one. That's always been the American thing. There's nothing in there's nothing about the federal government that says that it has to come in and provide for your individual personal safety. It's a public need. We have to maintain that there is basically, domestic tranquility, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be local flare-ups or local problems, and those things have to be handled locally. And the smallest hammer is always the most appropriate hammer. We've already seen that the intelligence agencies cannot be trusted with the tools they've been given. They've been given tools like FISA 702. They're expressly forbidden under what's called reverse targeting. It's actually written into the law that they're not allowed to use it to find American citizens through that process, and it's the only way that it is functionally used. You just heard the attorney general get out in front of Congress and say, under oath, that it is the biggest source of fentanyl information on the border for like trafficking. And FISA 702 is meant for foreign intelligence. It's not meant for transnational organized crime. So that guy has probably committed perjury under some of the things that he said, just based on his own testimony. It wouldn't take very much to go through and see what he said and then compare it against other testimony. It's really scary that we think that the intelligence agencies would be an answer to it. The CIA operating, domestically, they do operate domestically, and they're allowed to only under certain narrow parameters. And those parameters are for the National Resource Organization, which
Kyle,
means
can you
that
FOIA them? Can you FOIA
who
FISA requests?
can you FOIA FISA requests? No, of course not.
No, no,
they're all
they're
702.
protected
Yeah, they're
for
all going to be
national
secret, no
security
foreign.
interests, just like you can't FOIA Congress.
Right, which that may be a little bit more problematic. The idea of FISA in theory is that it's supposed to be going after certain things. Well, we've either FTOs or the foreign intelligence organizations. But when we're talking about the idea that they would go out there and use this tool that they've been given and they ever expand it and they just sort of announce that they're going to do it. And then previously in multiple audits, they've had millions, literally millions of unlawful searches. And then they came in front of you guys and said, hey, look, we're doing a really good job. We only had a couple 100,000 violations this year. A couple 100,000 violations is a shocking amount. Like if that was a local police department, they would have shut down the police department. They would have been under a consent decree and they would no longer be able to operate, hire, or do anything else. There would be no enforcement activities that would be allowed underneath that particular agency. But because it's the federal government, there's no one above them. And the OIGs are essentially ballless, unfortunately. They don't do anything. And even when they do call out the administrators that are involved in these sort of failures, they don't ever get their names published. We don't name and shame them and keep them from doing that kind of work anywhere else. They just go step into the private sector and go make a fortune doing the same exact thing and pay contracts to their buddies for these types of software. So under no circumstances should a police state or any sort of mass vetting done by the federal government. Now, if you want to give money to the states and say, as you guys think is appropriate, and in concert with the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights, you want to involve yourself in some localized vetting of certain problems, maybe. But like the U.S. government's the one that let all these idiots in. We let in 100,000 Afghans with minimal vetting. So
Yeah,
I mean,
right. What are you gonna do? Make more laws? It's like it reminds me of
it's
gun
gun control.
control.
No, look,
Yeah,
look, look, look,
This is
Kyle.
jinx.
I'm not. I have no interest in stepping on the Constitution or Bill of Rights or taking anybody's freedom away. I want to reiterate that. I'm just saying that the the situation in this country right now is so unprecedented that I strongly believe it will lead political leaders to take unprecedented measures that will probably be unpopular. I'm not saying I'm committed to one or another. I'm committed to listening to the smartest and brightest idea so we can do something. We need to mitigate the issue. At this point, yes, the first step needs to start. I think Charles.
Congressman, how is that any different than the governor of New Mexico coming out and saying that the Constitution is not absolute? It kind of sounds like implied the same
No,
thing.
I was actually one of the few people who actually signed the letter condemning her actions, and let me reiterate this. I hope that we can come up with a creative solution under the guises of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to make sure that we can mitigate this problem. Obviously, it needs to start by closing the southern border. That's number one. And then moving on from there is I do believe we need to start vetting these people that came in and try to backtrack.
Deport them.
Who says that?
that's a
I did,
solution.
yeah.
I mean, look, that's not a bad idea. And here's the reality:
Start with
if
fighting age males.
if 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 this country were serious about upholding its laws, everybody here is educated enough to know that about 90% of the people who are seeking asylum will not qualify for asylum. So it's just simple fact that if
Yeah,
we
but
start
Congressman, that's years later. That's years.
that's my point. Well, I mean, there's court dates for 2032 at this point.
Well, to be fair with what you just said, the premise is false. Like, if this country was serious, it is not serious the way that we've been acting for at least the last, I don't know, decade or more. So we know we're not serious. So then the rest of it doesn't really follow. What I would just politely request is that whenever you look at these things, solutions should one be viewed: is it a constitutional move on its face? If that is not, if the answer is no, then that's a no go. And then the answer is almost always going to be to dismantle these things versus create more government. That should theoretically be the conservative position. Less of all of this. Here's the amazing part. Almost all of the important law enforcement gets done closest to you, the people that you live around, the people that you work around, the people that you can elect as a sheriff, the people that you elect as a mayor and a city council that hire a police chief. They will institute the policies that make sense to their constituents far better than an FBI or an ATF or a DHS or, God forbid, any of these other agencies out there.
Like
They
all
are
things,
they are
Kyle,
so far away from
all things are
accountability.
local. All things are local, and I agree with you 100%. When people hear the massive talking point of all politics are local, you just hit the nail on the head. The federal government, in its face value, it's a disruptor more than it is a solution to anything. It disrupts most of America's functionality in government. I agree with you 100% on that. But in the unprecedented times we're in, within the guises of the Constitution, there has to be parameters that can be set up, or at least start reinforcing the goddamn laws on the books. Like it's just not that difficult, you know.
Well,
So
that should be the push then. It's like if you're not going to enforce the laws we have, then we're not going to fund your organizations. The
yep,
end. That is something that would be a dramatic something, by the way, a far bigger something than trying to create any new tools or some basic pieces of paper that move the ball nowhere. And unfortunately, and I think we've talked about this before, only people who are members of Congress would consider like a hearing to be a success when it has no outcome or action, and that should be the real thing. It's like forget the hearing, forget the findings, get the staffers to put together the plan, and the plan is essentially only these particular agencies are going to get funded if they enact the following things. And it has to be how many actions did you take that are under the existing laws that resulted in the following tangible, measurable results, as opposed to did you spend all of our money and did you hire the right amount of people and did they fire enough TPS reports? Because honestly, I think Americans, that's the thing that we're sick of seeing. But nobody wants to see a new sort of tyrannical scary organization. We've already got things like CISA that popped up in the last couple of years, which scared the living hell out of me. We need less of that and more of like, how about our sheriff's departments are funded for overtime and maybe some hiring and maybe a little bit less FBI and a little bit less from all the other three letters because we could do without them. You wouldn't even know if they didn't show up to work. I promise you, they didn't show up to work in 2020 and nobody noticed. So I'm telling you, the experiment's already been done, unfortunately.
Congressman, can I ask you a quick question about? Obviously, you think it's a very important problem that needs to get addressed, but nothing can happen in Congress right now because of what's happening in the House. Do you have any information about when there's going to be some movement on that, and when is there anything going on that weeks, days, months when they're going to resolve this?
Cliff, it is my hope that we stick to the calendar that's in front of us right now, and that by Wednesday, we will have a new Speaker of the House.
Do we know who that more than likely is going to be based upon what's been happening up there?
So Monday, tomorrow at 6 p.m., we're meeting for the first time ever since since we broke off last week. There's still a lot of high tension in the air. Let's just call it that. But people are coming together. A lot of side conversations taking place and whatnot in lieu of getting a resolution to this. And Tuesday we have the candidate forum presentation to us. So everybody that wants to run, that intends on running, is going to throw their hat in the ring and they're going to make their case to the conference. And Wednesday at 9 a.m., we start voting. We will vote all day Wednesday, from my understanding, in conference until we as a conference agree on 218 for whichever candidate it is. And then we bring it to the floor and just elect that speaker, and then we move on. So that's the perfect world scenario. We lost 5 days of productivity in total, if that's the case. So that's really what our goal is to get back on the horse on the appropriations and try to make this deadline of 45 days that we have 37 days, I believe, left. So, this is our goal. This is what we have on the calendar for the week.
Thanks, Cliff and Congressman. Guys, we're going to do the hands. We'll keep it brief so we can get through them all. Michael, did you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just respond quickly to what Mr. Santos and Cliff's question there. I mean, from what we're seeing, sir, it's pretty much been narrowed down to 2 or 3 choices. Wouldn't you agree?
I'd agree if I didn't know. With the information you have, yes. With the information I have, no.
Okay, so you're suggesting that there may be more people throwing their hat in the ring. That's fine. Listen, I'm going to say this as respectfully as I can, but I'm just going to say it as American.
You don't need to say it respectfully.
No, that's okay, sir. I still respect you enough to say that. Kyle's much more diplomatic with what he was saying. And listen, I've said this before. I came from the left. I was a Democrat my entire life. And I was disgusted, and it pretty much changed my, where I stand now as a leaning conservative. But it was basically this damn Patriot Act that was enacted by George Bush and then Obama basically doubled its their abilities. So I have two things. There's an echoing. Mr. Santos, can you mute yourself, sir? Thank you, sir. One, I'm with Kyle basically, and he didn't quite say this, but we need to demolish the Patriot Act. Okay, I mean, I'm sure you're aware, and maybe it's somewhat hyperbolic, but what the Patriot Act was allowed to do and what they were allowed to do with it, it's now being obviously used against our own citizens, more specifically MAGA, right? And we just had this release of the FBI going after. I mean, I'm not going to go into all that, but as I said, just my own opinion as an American citizen, I know it's almost impossible. I know it probably will never be done, but any type of stuff that can be done to completely minimize that, that article or whatever the hell we want to call it, needs to be done. I will also just throw on real quickly, I'm going to challenge you, and I know this may sound silly, but I'm going to challenge you. Kyle is involved in a film coming out called Police State, and I'm going to see if I can challenge you to get as many members as you can together and hold a screening of it.
So, Michael,
because
I'll give you good news then. I'm part of a group of members who actually will be. I spoke about this with Kyle. Dinesh had reached out, and Jim Jordan and a couple of other guys and myself were part of a hosting group that are going to host this in Congress. And our goal is to roll it either in the auditorium or in some massive room, just like we did the Sound of Freedom, and that's kind of the goal. So challenge accepted, but I guess it's already in motion. So it's kind of just wanted to make sure you understood that.
Should
I'm
be
very
November
much looking
15th from
forward.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm looking very much forward to the movie and to the project. And Kyle, it'd be great if you can come the day that we host it.
I'm actually allergic to Washington, D.C., so that would be difficult. I don't want to break out in hives and vomit all over everyone's shoes. 5 years was my max. Now I've lost all my tolerance for the place. It's like
Gotcha.
people who
Kyle,
move from
if you don't mind me
Wisconsin to
asking,
Miami.
where do you live?
I live in Texas.
There you go. You can really get allergic to DC if you live in Texas long enough. You lose tolerance to the swamp odor.
Yeah, I escaped to New Mexico and then Arizona and now Texas, and it's like the freedom is all back. It's hard. If there's a reason to come out that way on the 15th, I will consider doing so. If Dinesh asks me and Dan if they're all going to show up there, but I have some serious misgivings about my former agency and their grip on that city, which I think should be concerning for most people. Anyhow,
thanks, guys. I'm gonna go to Sarah just real quickly, guys. Like I said, I'm gonna be in New York City tomorrow. I'm gonna go to the massive protest outside of the embassy or consulate. I'm not sure the exact title, but and we're gonna do it live too on a space. So
For which country, Mark? What embassy? What protests?
Oh, I'm talking about the big one going down. Let me see here. Well, it's the Free Palestine movement, right? I did it in Philly today, and it says, let me see here. I got it up here in the nest. It's posted by Within Our Lifetime, and it says New York City emergency rally for Gaza, all out on Indigenous Peoples Day, 10/9 at 2 p.m. as we mobilize to defend the heroic Palestine resistance, honor our martyrs, and let the world know that New York City stands with Gaza. Bring your flag signs, califes, and voices. Masking is encouraged. So the link to that space, guys, is the very first one. It's all the way to the left. Grab that now. McCabe will be hosting it. I'll be there. If crypto is free, he'll be there. But I'll be on the ground, Congressman. So, if you want to hear unbiased, accurate reporting, I did it today from Philly, and I'm going to do it tomorrow there.
Yeah, please let me know. Unfortunately, I'm back in DC this evening ahead of tomorrow's meeting and just figuring the speaker stuff out. But
so do this, Congressman. Literally look, scroll up top. We call it the nest. And you'll see many things posted, but you can swipe left, right. But if you keep swiping right, so you'll look at the left there, you'll see it posted by me. It starts with I have little fire emojis.
This is expected to be a massive protest.
Yes,
yeah,
click that. Then you can set your reminder.
Just did it.
Cool, awesome, guys. You could do the same thing. Thanks, Congressman. Sarah, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Congressman. I appreciate your service to the people of your district, and I appreciate you backtracking on attacking the Constitution, which I think all of us in this room understands was gifted to us by God. And I believe it's the Congress people's job not to enforce public safety, but to guarantee the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. I know you've been critical in the past of the situation in Ukraine. And I wanted to point out that what you suggested would take place in the United States with the door-to-door knock of 350 million US citizens and residents would in fact not even be legal in Ukraine after 19 months of martial law. So when put into that perspective, I'm glad you backtracked, and I just wanted to point that out.
Oh no, and Sarah, I appreciate you saying that because I'm pretty sure somebody's going to take a clip of that and say, I misspoke. I didn't mean to say door to door of all 350 million people, but I appreciate that.
Well,
You're right.
Congressman, respectfully, as a constituent, you said there were 600 people, and believe me, this is respectfully. Your words were 600 people were protesting. We should be looking at those people, implying sort of a warrantless surveillance. And I'm just telling you, from a political standpoint and a concerned citizen standpoint, as a constituent, I'm concerned that the sentiment you have is shared with other Congress people that you've spoke to earlier today. And that's honestly it's terrifying because a lot of people that are looking at this completely objectively with no skin in the game and wondering why this attack happened. Israel did not actually see the attack coming. We're looking down the line, and you can call it whatever you want, but many people are saying, this will be a wave to either bring us into a global conflict or usher in or solidify practices of a mass surveillance. And when we hear things like that, it's just an instant bell goes off like, holy shit, you're confirming it. So just to make you aware of that sentiment, and it's shared by many people.
And I would say too, just the doors themselves I understand it's kind of comical, but really it's the electronic reach, right? Like doors, we got the Ring doorbell. We don't have to answer the door, okay? But really the concern is overreach with privacy, especially digitally. But you kind of made your correction. If there's anything else you'd want to add, of course, Congressman, you can.
Oh no, Charles. I share the same skepticism as you do, especially for being somebody who's been under the gun forever for being a conservative or, for protesting Democrats in New York City, for, standing up to the 2020 lockdowns. I mean, you name it. I understand what it's to be a target, believe me, but my concerns come. You're from New York. I did not know you were a constituent. If you don't mind me asking, where in the district do you live? If you're okay with sharing that.
I don't really want to share, but I'm in the county.
No, that's fine. Okay. Oh, you're in Nassau?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. So just to put it in perspective, I look at it this way. Terrorism is something that I think scares us all, and we might have poor choices of words and reactions to these circumstances. I agree with you that we should not make uneducated decisions. We should not make education decisions without seeking people who have more experience, who are better versed in this. And that's the one benefit of being here, is that I'm able to listen to people. I come on these spaces and I've learned that if I have some kind of question in the future, and Kyle has made himself available in a fashion where I can go to him or other people who are experts, I think every member of Congress should have people they can go to just to clear up doubts or make better educated decisions. And that's why I continuously join these spaces and listen to you all speak, because it adds a whole lot of depth and perspective to one's ability to do their job. I've told, and I tell this to my colleagues, I have very few colleagues who engage at this level with the American people. And I think if more of them did so, you'd see a lot more productivity coming out of Congress that was not viewed poorly by the American people and the American public in general. But I want to make sure that we establish that I am not here advocating for a surveillance state. I'm not advocating for an expansion of the three-lettered agencies. I am just suggesting that if we have task force already in place, that we start using them and start enforcing the laws of this country. The moment we stopped enforcing the law of the land is where we started seeing all these problems. And I don't want to get caught asleep at the wheel a second time. 23 years later, 22 years and change later, from 9/11. So that's kind of the sentiment there. And I stand corrected here. You all made valid points on, just me spitballing here. And I appreciate you guys because that makes me a better person. That makes me, it's good sometimes to be reined in when you go a little too, when you fly a little too far from reality or from the nest. It's always good to have folks like you guys, just regular everyday people, pull you back in and say, "What the f you doing?" So I appreciate that seriously, and it's helpful. So
Well, yeah,
with that,
Congressman, we greatly appreciate you staying and sticking around, not running once we kind of you know checked you a little bit.
no,
So,
yeah,
so
dude,
thanks for
I
listening and
get
taking it.
punched in the face by the DC media every day.
So I guess we're not too bad, right? But no,
You
no,
guys
but
are kind
really,
of the
really appreciate.
friendliest crowd, even pushing back.
Yeah, I appreciate you, taking it. Let me see. Phenom, go ahead.
Hey, thank you. So, if you remember, I think it was about a year ago, New York put out that public service announcement that basically said if the big thing hits, meaning like nuclear bomb, take a shower and stay inside. And then we don't see the Chinese balloons. We lose an F-35. The Iron Dome doesn't work. We can't tell who is in our country. And it just kind of feels like, do we have any allies that will come and help with our border? I mean, it's terrifying. And whenever I think of New York politics, I can't help but think of Chuck Schumer, like, you've unleashed the whirlwind and you will pay the price. And I just can't help if there's just like if every congressman that wants to put America first is just faced with all of these threats. I just want to plainly ask if that's what's happening, because like nothing that people say they want to happen is seems able to happen, and we are obviously danger. Like, how do you not see an F-35? How do you not see the Chinese balloons? How do you not know you've got Chinese police stations in cities?
I mean, I still am trying to figure out how we lose an F-35. Yes, that's an utter fail, and inexcusable. But to your point, I think what we've all learned is, I mean, I'm a definitely, and there's no running from it. I'm definitely a MAGA candidate, a MAGA
Oh,
representative.
I wasn't saying you're like Chuck Schumer, but I just meant like, he
Oh
gets,
no, no.
after he
To
makes a
your point
statement,
of Chuck
Tucker's
Schumer coming
fired,
after us. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh yeah,
I
no, you're
wasn't.
fine. Oh, trust me, I know you were not talking about me. The reality is you're right. Chuck Schumer is coming after us. I mean, look at the rhetoric that Jeffries and Schumer spew every day. They're trying to make this stick, and they only refer to us as extreme MAGA Republicans. You're damn right. I'm an extreme MAGA Republican because if there weren't more if we don't stand up to being MAGA, who is? Who's going to want to make this country great again? Who's going to want to put this country first? It doesn't seem like anybody, because I don't see anything productive coming out of anywhere that's pushing this country in the direction it should be going. So you're right. There is this weaponization, even within government, against factions of government ruled by different party classes. You're right. I think. If we don't stop and pause and realize that we need to reduce government fundamentally to save this country, we are not going to be able to save this country. I think that's the first thing that needs to be taken serious, is the downsizing of the federal government in general. But
That
I,
won't happen with continued resolutions.
I say this often. I am one of 435, and I agree. And I've put my weight behind somebody for speaker already. And my one thing with that person was, I'll support you. You get in there. I don't care how much time you have. you better figure out this budget and this appropriations process, because I'm not voting for a second continued resolution. And I was guaranteed that we were not going to be voting for a second continued resolution. And if it does, and if they do put it forward, then it's to their demise, because I'm definitely not voting for one. So I already did. I voted for one, and it was something that pained me, but it was a necessary vote, in my opinion. A second one would just be malpractice at that point.
Jack.
I feel another bet coming on with Kyle.
Go ahead, Jack. Jack, are you there?
Jack, I'm
back, Jack.
I didn't. You sound like you're falling asleep at the switch there. What's going on? No,
well, I am going to go to bed soon. I got to be in New York.
I'm sitting here. I want to say something funny and lighthearted, but I'm getting furious. Just no offense, Congressman, but I think you should take Kyle and put him in your back pocket every time you go to D.C. so we can keep you out of trouble up there.
Kyle doesn't want to come to DC to watch a movie, let alone come to.
Well,
listen, I think Kyle may actually fit in his back pocket too.
You might have to get him a bubble.
Kyle sounds fantastic. Well, this is what I wanted to say. There's a couple things. Number one, Mrs. Partridge also played the tambourine. Number two, if you think that kneeling on one guy's, look how many people they mobilized just by killing a black guy, a cop killing a black guy. Could you imagine the strife that they can create with this Israel-Palestine conflict in the United States if they want to? So I guess what I'm trying to say, Congressman, is you need to start to see things through the lens that most of the people in this room see things, which is we're already past a lot of the nonsense and the pleasantries. We see things differently. To me, this looks like a create the crisis, provide the solution type event. There's no way in hell that the Israeli security state missed this by accident. There's no way in hell that the United States security apparatus missed this intelligence by accident. There's no way. I would literally bet my life right now that did not happen. So someone knew, just like someone knew on 9/11. And the Patriot Act did destroy the rights of the United States citizen. And we've all been sitting here slowly watching our liberties be eroded for 20 years, whatever it is, 2001 till now. We're sick of it. We're done with it. And we're sick of people saying, well, we're going to go down there and we're going to try and look at the appropriate. We don't give a shit about any of that crap. That's why we threw Trump at Washington, D.C. Don't you understand? Half the people that you represent are already so fed up that they don't give a shit. They're all this door-to-door stuff. We were freaking out when they were going door-to-door in Boston after the Boston bombing, right? So we don't want to hear anything that even sounds remotely like what you just suggested. No offense. Seriously, no offense. But I want you to you got to get a feel, read the room. Jeez.
Oh no! Look, I read the room after I spoke for sure, but again, I think we've well established that that's what I intended. I think my choice of words came out wrong, and I stand corrected for even remotely sounding like that was the case. But I do believe though that we need to do something. Whether it's enforcing our laws and just start deporting people in masses at this point. It gets to a point where if there's a threat and quite frankly, we don't know anything about you, you got to go. It's plain and simple. You got to go. That's how I look at it. I look at each and every single person coming in through the southern border, including the 7,500 plus single bodily abled men who are in my congressional district as of today. That is the head count. They're, to me, 7,500 threats, whether it be in a civil level, in a terrorist event level, in any level whatsoever. They're an economic threat. They're all sorts of threats, and I don't want them to be a threat. I don't want them to be in my district. I don't want them to be in my country. I just I've reached a boiling point like a lot of Americans, and I'm just I guess we'd say mad as hell at the entire situation, and that we keep turning a blind eye to it. But
Congressman, is there any way you can assist me in getting into some of these migrant shelters in New York? I really want to get a peek on what's going on and report it to the people.
Mark, I don't know if you follow a lot of what I do, but I showed up to Creedmoor, which is by definition the most ill facilitated location for a migrant facility in all of New York City, I would say. Um, and as a member of Congress, I was denied entry by the company, by the contractor that's managing the property. We've followed up with the city numerous times, and they continue to decline my request. So then I had to go do some digging, spoke with chairman of oversight, and we're looking at how much federal funds are being directed there through HERC, and we found about $30 million that are federal funds that were appropriated there. So we're just going to go and pull a subpoena and a demand for inspection, and then that's the way I'm going to get in there. If you're in town that day, I can let you know. And I don't know if I can bring anybody in that's not on my staff. That's the other problem. So, but I'd be glad to, if you wait outside, I'd be glad to just give you a first direct account with my staff of what we see and what went on in there for sure.
Yeah, just the effort. I appreciate it. We can always go from there. So,
Yeah.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Congressman.
Yeah, no.
Because that I really want to. The people want to know. I want to know. I want to share it with the people. I think you get it.
Oh, we all want to look. We all want to know. I spent an hour 2 weekends ago, outside of that facility after they denied my entry. I spent an hour talking to the migrants. Um, one of them actually had the audacity to turn around to me and say, "They're mistreating us. All they feed us is sugar and carbs. They don't give us balanced nutrition meals. We don't get vegetables. We don't get protein. Everything."
Wow.
Talk about ungrateful. It was. I laughed at him. I said, "Dude," but here's the way I put it to all of them. I'm like, "All right, if I came to your house and wherever you're from, and I jumped through the back window, would you be upset, or would you, or would you be okay with it?" He said, "Why don't you come in through the front door?" I'm like, "Well, let me ask you the same. Why did you come to my country and not use the front door?" And they all get like silent. It's one guy actually said, "Oh, Joe Biden said it was okay." I said, "Oh, he told you?" He's like, "Oh, he said on TV that if you needed help that it was okay to come here." I said, "Oh, so that's what you saw back home in your country?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Gotcha." So, when our president sets a tone that's preceded as, come on in, doors wide open, that's a problem.
Yeah. Thanks. Guys, listen, we're just make your questions or your comments. Either way, just make them quick, so because I want to get down to Brick and Miss G and some other good people waiting. So let me go to Paige. Go ahead.
Hey guys, so hours ago I've sent Mark, Kyle, and Crypto. I've sent you guys DMs, and I'm sorry I'm waiting. I've been waiting, so I'm checking out. But if you guys follow Amir Sapardi, he has a channel on Telegram where he's on the ground in Israel. He is from Jerusalem, did his military there, and after that, I think it was like mayor, governor of Jericho, and he's where he honestly he's where I'm getting all my information because he's there on the ground.
Thanks.
And there's a lot of videos that probably shouldn't be posted or seen, but you'll see everything there. So I've shared some in the nest, and I've sent them directly to you guys in your DM.
Thanks, Paige. We're going to rotate you, and guys, don't take any offense. We'll bring you right back. So, where was I? Thomas D. Go ahead.
Hey, George, it's me again from New York. How are you?
Oh, hang on, Miss G. Tom, I gave it to Thomas. Sorry. Tom's good.
So, Congressman Thomas Murphy here. I have a couple questions for you. Number one, how long are your intentions on staying in the Congress? Is my first question to you.
How long is my intention of staying in Congress?
Yeah.
Well, I have no intention of leaving. At least if I'm given the opportunity, I'm running for re-election. If the people want me back, if not, then back to civilian life for me. But I have no intention of overstaying more than 3 terms if given the opportunity to. So.
Okay. So, with that in mind, I am running in 26 against Lindsey Graham to be a senator. And one thing I would like to see, and one thing I would like to do, is have some fair policies coming from the Congress being passed up to the Senate that are appropriate for this country. And some of those fair things that we're talking about are things such as one line items for funding. We're looking at the worst funding in America that I've ever seen. I spent 20 years running a budget while I was active duty, and never once did I ever have this much of a problem with a budget that I ran for 8 years straight. It's a waste of money that after it gets voted into law and we send the stuff off to other countries, it gets lost. And then what do we do the next year? We go back and that's refunded again at that same level. I'm going to be a very hardline individual to be able to get stuff like that passed through because I personally don't believe that that does anything for America.
Thanks, Thomas. I just trying to keep it on topic a little bit because Congressman doesn't have all night as well as the rest of us.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see, Miss G. Go ahead.
Hold on. I love Miss G, but to be fair, Michael's had his hand raised for a while.
Michael, I don't even see him. All right.
Just putting it out there, Miss G. Love
Congressman
you.
override, Michael. We're gonna have to go to you. I didn't see you. Blended in.
That's all right, Mark. That's all right. That's all right. Congressman, thank you, sir. Mark, good job today. Out there on the streets. Crypto, what's going on? Cliff, how are you? I got something for you two guys here in a second. I heard you two guys met up over in Fort Lauderdale earlier today starting shit. But Mark, let me ask you a question. How many people were at that march today up there?
I estimate, the crowd obviously grew and shrunk, but I'd say up to 500 is my estimate.
Damn, that's crazy. So this just like came up. I see this stuff popping up all over Florida. Here where I'm at, they had a big rally up in Tampa today at 2 p.m. pro-Palestinian. They had that rally over in Fort Lauderdale today where the fight broke out in the streets. I gotta. I'm not saying I'm trying to push back a little bit here. On what the comment. I came in at the very end of y'all's conversation about Congressman Santos saying something, or someone was saying something about looking into these groups. I'm sorry, but isn't that what the oath and Constitution say? The Second Amendment as well. We're going to go out here and defend our country from terrorists, domestic and abroad. If we've got Palestinian sympathizers throughout our country, I sure as hell want to know who they are. Now, we're going to turn this into a widespread investigation of every American. Well, they've already done that through the Patriot Act. But I think what you're going to see, if the government doesn't start getting up here and providing security and close the goddamn border, right? Get up here and start doing some things, from within that we already have here. What you saw in Fort Lauderdale today is probably just going to be the tipping point. You're going to see more and more Americans in the street fighting with each other like that. And wait until next summer when you got Summer of Love Part 2. And the Democrats and liberals get out here and start burning shit down. I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you are an American patriot, you better start stacking up on ammo, get all different types of caliber. You better start preparing yourself. Okay, we've had tens of millions of damn people come across that border. You can say, 5, 3, 7, all you want to. We all know that there's a lot more. Nobody's being checked. You see them coming over the border all the damn time, military-aged men. Folks, look, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm telling yourself, you guys better start getting ready for this because this is crap. Nobody's watching the roost. You got to get out here and start protecting yourself.
Thanks.
I'm gonna assume that
Okay.
wasn't a question, Michael, but I love the fact that whenever you're talking to conservatives, it's mainly statements, so I don't have to talk much.
It is funny because just doing the host thing up here, I'm like,
I'm sorry, but
no, it's okay.
Crypto asked me earlier. Crypto asked me earlier about the rally over there in Fort Lauderdale today. I wasn't at it. Crypto, were you there?
Yeah, no, I wasn't there at it. I was down in the area, and then when I got back up to Palm Beach is when I knew that it was going on.
You drove right around it, is what
Yeah, I literally drove right around it.
It looked like the Israeli supporters kind of outnumbered the Palestinian supporters.
Cliff,
yeah, big time.
Cliff, on a note here. Well, obviously, guys, it's Fort Lauderdale, but anyway, Cliff, question for you. As a Democrat, how do you make ends meet with being a Democrat or an independent who leans Democrat? From what I last understood, your introduction to me was, how do you make sense of supporting a party that is openly supporting, at least a lot of the members of the party that you associate yourself with? How do you make ends of it, and how can you find yourself still inclined to support their policies when they're clearly on the wrong side of history on the Israel Hamas conflict?
Well, I don't think that everyone. It's a spectrum, right? You've got people on the far left that have a philosophy that I don't agree with. I can understand it when they are anti-Israeli policy versus, being anti-Semitic. I can understand the dichotomy between those two things. What I can't understand is when you have an attack like this, there's nothing to compare it to. There's no arguments to be had
So,
anymore.
Cliff, are you saying that and sorry for pushing back here, you don't need to compare it to anything. It's just right and wrong. If you're looking for comparisons, then you're looking for excuses to continue to support this party.
Oh,
And
no. I'm telling you that it's a continuum of people in that party. You've got people on the far left that have a belief that is going to destroy them politically eventually because it's an unpopular and an untenable position to support people that are, support a group of people that were hell bent on destroying Israel.
But Cliff, here's where I believe you're wrong, sir, and I'll explain to you. The Progressive Caucus has grown over the last 4 election cycles in this country. It is now at 100 members in Congress out of 213. They're almost half the representation of the party in Washington, D.C., at least in the House. I don't think it's that little minority anymore, and I don't think the spectrum is as wide as it used to be. Jared Moskowitz and Marie Gluesenkamp Perez are the first Democrats elected to Congress in the last decade to actually join the Blue Dog Democrat caucus. One's a Jew from Florida, the other one's in a red Republican seat in Washington state. So, probably for political reasons, she's going to be more moderate, voted on a couple of our appropriation bills and all of that stuff. But I mean, that should be concerning to you. The party that you align yourself with is moving further and further to the left to a degree where it's you're seeing less Joe Manchins and oh God, I forgot his name, Joe Crowley's of the world, and more AOCs and Pramila Jayapals of the world. So I always find it curious to see how people kind of conform and just kind of accept that and just say, well, I still like their socialist policies, their social policies, more than I like conservative ones. That's why I asked. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but
yeah, listen, I have no problem being put on the spot anyway. In this space, being who I am, I get put on the spot every time I'm in here, and so it's not a problem for me to get asked these kinds of questions. I don't care, but I don't know how many of those 100 or so people that you're talking about are how they align with the squad on that particular issue.
I mean, Pramila Jayapal is the chair of the Progressive Caucus. What, 2 months ago, she was railing against Israel on a stage, and ev- everybody seemed to be okay with it. Like there was no strong censure initiative coming from her party. So I believe she echoed the true sentiments of the party. This was what, 60 days ago at best. And she's the head of the progressive movement in Congress. It's Pramila Jayapal. So, uh, and this is not political rhetoric. This is just fact. What is happening to the Democrat Party that all of a sudden they go from being, I mean, I remember when Hillary Clinton, hell, believed we needed to protect the southern border. I believe when Dianne Feinstein was declining giving Bush nominees unless he signed the bill to fund the U.S. Mexico border security. I mean, what changed? Or why allow this generation of crybabies and entitled brats like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Richie Torres and Jamal Bowman, or as I call him, Jamal Fire Alarm Bowman, to hijack the party and take it in a direction that's not even representative of probably most Democrat voters.
Well, I mean, there are obviously certain issues that I disagree with them on because while I'm somewhat progressive, I consider myself kind of like Bill Maher. If you wanted to pigeonhole me, I kind of feel like that's who I am. I'm not far on the left. I'm on the left, but I'm not out there in outer space. I see certain things that don't make sense to me either, and I don't like it. And it's going to boomerang to some degree. They're going to have to come back more to the center. They're going to have to. And by the way, the Republican Party is going to have to do the same thing too. They've pulled way too far to the right on certain issues like abortion, and that's a problem on the other side.
But
So
most Americans agree with the Republican position that abortion after the second trimester is murder and that abortion as a contraceptive is immoral.
yeah,
So,
but that's not what the position is in a majority of states, including Florida, where we just put in what a 6-week abortion. I'm going blank. 6-week abortion ban or whatever it is.
yeah, look, I'm not here. Look, if the people of
I
Florida.
wasn't. I'm not trying to argue with you abortion. I'm just giving
Oh,
you an
no,
example of
I'm not
how.
arguing abortion. I have my position on abortion. I've made it very abundantly clear throughout the years. I'm just saying, but if the people of Florida voted for a legislature, voted for a governor, knowing that that was their position, because he campaigned on that and he won overwhelmingly, maybe it's what the people of Florida want, at least the majority of Floridians want, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, it's definitely not the same reality here in New York, right? For us in New York, that's not what we want. I think this isn't about the party and the party's position. This is also about, I campaigned calling abortion barbaric, and I said it's just as barbaric today to me. 50 years from now, our kids are going to look back and say, we were a barbaric generation, just like we look back and look at slavery and we think it was barbaric. It's just a fact. Just think ahead, with all the shit that's in the world, in our food and fertilization dropping, women are having a harder time having kids. Men are having a harder time being able to get their wives pregnant. I'm just talking in general, right? So there's going to be a time, because of the insane toxic world we live in where profits are put above quality, that you can't even get a fucking apple that's not full of freaking chemicals at this point, unless you're self-sustained or whatever. We're going to be talking about this. So it's not a position about political ideology. I think it's just populist. It's people of Florida appreciated that approach and they voted for him knowing he was campaigning on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to try to go down that political rabbit hole with you in Florida because I don't really, he was running, Democratic Party in Florida is extremely weak, and Charlie Crist was a horrible candidate. But
But he
but
was
and I don't.
he was your like he was a great Democrat congressman. Well, also he was a formidable former governor of Florida that was a great Republican, and his ex-wife, who left him when he left the Republican Party, was a great fundraiser for me. So,
No, I get all that, but he was a Republican, he was an independent, he was a Democrat, and he wasn't really very popular at the end. But the Democrats here are weak. They're changing. They're trying to change. They're trying to get stronger. I'm just telling you, I don't think, in my humble opinion, that he was as strong as popular as maybe the differential in the voting between the Democrat and the Republican were when he got elected the second time. The first time it was very close.
oh no, absolutely. But anyway, I just wanted to ask because I know you're here. You give a great counterbalance to the conversation. So, sorry, Mark, for throwing a wrench there.
Well, I hope I answered it. I don't know if I did, but I tried.
Quite frankly, I don't think there's a real straightforward answer. I'll be straight with you,
Cliff
Cliff.
avoids a lot of them, and he's good at it. But...
No, it's fine. I'll put it this way, Cliff. I think you are at peace with being part of a party that apologizes and supports terrorism. I mean, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I just gave you multiple facts here of the direction of your party, how many people in your party support this, the size of the caucus, the growing membership into that kind of ideology. And I have these conversations with people all the time, friends of mine who are Democrats, and they all circle around, yeah, but the Republicans are too extreme. I mean, we're deemed extreme because we want to protect kids' innocence. We don't want to allow kids to mutilate themselves. We don't want kids exposed to garbage content, or just because parents want rights over what the fuck their kids are being taught in school, or because we just want freedoms, same freedoms that I was just really called back to Jesus here, but Kyle pointed out, we want freedom from a big government. We want freedom from surveillance. We want freedom from censorship. And those all seem extreme for some reason to the Democrats. So I always have these conversations. No intent of getting an answer. No. I just want to debate it to see if maybe I learned something from.
Yeah, no. Listen, you pointed out yourself. My namesake, who I have no relation to, but is also in Florida, is very strong on this too. I've seen him tweeting, a lot about what's going on in Israel. So, I mean, obviously, there are people in the Democratic Party that have that understand where we are, and there may be people that are too far to the left, in my humble opinion. But then you have a lot of other people that aren't, and they just have to coexist and figure it out because they're diametrically opposed to the Republican Party.
Here's how I'll put it to you. Today, I can tell you there's not a single person of the 220, pardon me, or 221, myself included, members of my party that I would say I do not support. I don't think a single one of them is too far to the right that it's incomprehensible or inexcusable. I don't think a single one of them is too moderate that it's incomprehensible and inexcusable. I don't think the Democrats can say the same thing about their party. I've heard members say that the Looney Tunes in their party just are impossible for them to even have a relationship with. So, and I'm speaking as a New York Republican, which in reality I'm probably way too conservative. Charles can even attest to that because he's in my district. As I just learned, I'm probably way too conservative for my district in every barometer known to mankind. But I campaigned saying that this is how conservative I was. I'm not going to change on them because they voted for me by an overwhelming majority. It was a landslide victory by 25,000 votes in difference. So a 16 and a half point swing from a Biden 8 to me winning by 8.5 points. So again, I campaigned saying that I was going to be this conservative. Though these were all my ideas: pro Second Amendment, abortion is barbaric, so on and so forth. So November of 2024, we shall know if the district wants me to, go look for another job, or actually even sooner, June of 2024 during the primary. So that's just my.
Can I ask you one other quick question? I promise I know other people have questions. But
Go ahead.
Is there any potential candidate for president, for the speaker, I should say, that some Democrats could actually get behind, or is there absolutely no shot in hell that parties can agree on anybody?
Can I tell you something? Your question was answered last week. The most palpable candidate for Democrats was McCarthy, and they couldn't even get behind him. This for them is political theater and victory. You know why? Over the last, 4 days, they have campaigned exclusively on television by saying that we're in disarray, we can't govern, we can't even keep a speaker. All it would have taken would have been 8 of their rock solid Democrats in, axe murder districts, as I call them, those D+30 districts. All it would have taken was 8 of them to just be like present, not even vote for McCarthy, just present. That's all it would have taken, and we would have averted the whole not having a speaker. But again, I'm not here to defend McCarthy. I'm not here to bash him, and I'm not here to call the Democrats out on their bullshit. Although I just
Well,
answered.
I mean, but he's unpopular amongst everyone. I mean, is there anybody that anybody actually could agree upon legitimately?
No.
Somebody they all like?
No, because the moment we have a Republican that Democrats like, then that means we're forming a coalition government. And quite frankly, I'm not interested. We're in the majority. I don't want the Democrats' input in selecting our speaker. We're going to select our speaker within our own rank, and the Democrats can go cry about it and try to win back the House in 2024 if they want to have a say in who the speaker is.
Well, then I guess we know why the Democrats did what they did.
Well, did you see the Democrats trying to give us a consensus on in regards of fucking Pelosi the last Congress? She had the same size majority we had, 5 seats. I don't recall any Democrats saying, "Oh, the Republicans should have a say on who the speaker is." No, we ended up with that bag of shit. So I'm sorry. No, we took back the House, and I don't want Democrats' input.
I know you don't want them, but you need them because you're having a lot of problems in the party. That's all.
No, look, we're having problems. Look, everybody says the Democrats had prior problems too. AOC did not vote for Pelosi for Speaker. Neither did Kathleen Rice.
I'm not a fan of Pelosi, by the way.
No, I'm just putting it out there. She was not unanimously voted for Speaker. She had holdouts too. So let's not point out like, oh, McCarthy has trouble. No, Pelosi was not unanimously chosen by her party either. At least not in 2020. So we need to realize that it's. Political parties are a lot of personalities, and look, every single one of us campaigned like every last one of us. No one is more special than us just because, speaker or this. I mean, sure, there's more importance here in the succession line, but aside from the speaker, everyone else is the same. I don't look at somebody and, the leadership team. Sure, what I look at it is they're in leadership. They've taken the burden of communicating with the rest of us as their own. They obviously benefit from exposure, but guess what? They got elected just like I did. They're no different than I am. We're all representatives of the people, and the moment we start acting like that, I think maybe we'll also start solving our problems within our own political rank and file within the House. That's just my 2 cents there. Mark, I'll give you back your room, and
Thank you for answering my questions, and I'll shut up and let everybody else.
Oh no, Cliff, I appreciate you, and I will say this, Crypto, to your credit, I love you. I love the fact you keep Cliff here because just having that obnoxious cigar in his mouth picture, it just makes me absolutely happy.
Oh God, that's too funny. I'll have to shoot you a DM on how that picture came about.
Sure. Please do. Look, I'm just going to give you guys a 10-minute warning. Last 10 minutes for me. I have a long day tomorrow. So,
thanks, Congressman. So let me do this. Yep. Sarah's in a different time zone, so I'm going to go to her real quick. I know she'll be brief with her time. Sarah?
Yes, thank you very much. And again, thank you, Mr. Congressman, for your answers and your time tonight / this morning. A report came out from your colleague, Mr. Cole, who said that any deals that former Speaker McCarthy made with members of the more fiscally conservative part of your caucus were no longer valid. Do you have any statements or thoughts on that, and that there could be greater spending in the new appropriations bills?
I mean, look, I'll say this. I warned this would happen. This is Washington, D.C. This is the town of fuck around and find out. And I guess, fucking around and finding out is going to suck. I do think Mr. Cole is right. And it's to our detriment because we had great deals set forward with Speaker McCarthy that were going to be fiscally conservative. I know some of you think, oh, he sucks and this. I beg differ. He cut great deals with the conservative side, the fiscal conservative hawks, and I think they were going to be very fruitful. I've said this before. I refuse to say anything ill about Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is one of my closest friends in the body, and he has his own decisions and way of thinking, and I respect him as much as I also respected the former Speaker of the House. I just think that they should have actually been working on their relationship since January 7th, and I don't think that transpired. So that's been the bulk of my public commentary on that situation. But Sarah, you're right. Mr. Cole is not wrong. I think any deals made with that speaker is no longer on the table. He's not the speaker anymore. It's going to be incumbent on whoever the new speaker is to make whatever deals they got to make. So, but that's a reality we're going to have to deal with. Mark, I would be remiss if I didn't say Sweet Pea is next because she's been waiting, and then it's Gigi.
You keep taking our jobs, and we're gonna make you.
Hey, hold on. Right? Hey, Santos, this ain't Congress, buddy. You're in Crypto's room. I'm speaker here.
Yeah,
you can be speaker. I'm still gonna override you. I'll take.
We're gonna give you a job.
I'll take your gavel and I'll put it where the sun don't shine. So you might not like that.
Well, Sweet Pea, the congressman wants to talk to you.
Thank you, Mr. Congressman. You're so sweet. I appreciate you calling on me. So
how are you?
Thank you. I truly do. And we always appreciate you coming in here.
Like I said, I always learn coming in here, so it's always great to be here with you guys as much as I can.
Thank you. So kind of you, truly. My question is that, obviously we all see the videos of the millions of people coming across the border, and I shouldn't even say people, I should say military-age men, and we don't know where they're from, they're not vetted, etc. And it's concerning, obviously, because there's a lot of gotaways, and it only takes a few, as we know from 9/11, to bring down buildings. So after what happened in Israel, obviously it may only take a few, now that they're scattered throughout the whole United States, to take down a lot of us. My concern is that nothing is being done other than lip service of, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying specifically in general, of Congress.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean,
of let's close the border. Why don't we cut off the head of the snake, who is Alejandro Mayorkas, and get him the hell out? So why are we not removing that man? Because he is the reason for this.
Sweet Pea.
Well, yeah, McCarthy promised that a year ago, November.
So hear me out. Sweet Pea, I think you just nailed it on the head, and I think whoever said that about the promise also is not wrong. And I've actually said this to a lot of my colleagues. We should have moved on an impeachment of Mayorkas before of Biden, just because it was so much easier. We would have gotten that impeachment inquiry done. It's the evidence is there. The truth holds itself to be self-evident. His inaction and his deceit and he should be held in contempt for coming to Congress and committing perjury, in my opinion, on what he did under oath. So that should have been our number one goal, and then we should have moved on to Biden, because it would have been a great win for conservatives by impeaching Mayorkas. Unfortunately, we didn't do that. But you pointed something out. It's just talk. Even what I'm telling you, because again, I'm one of 435. Everything I give you right now, until we see it put to action and we can actually get votes on the House floor, it's all lip service. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing it purposefully, but I'm going to admit to you right now that I'm talking to you about it. I talk about it all the time, but I don't seem to be able to get a consensus to put something forward aside from HR2, which we passed and sent to the Senate, but something else, even if it's parts of HR2 and smaller bills, and send it to the Senate and say, you can't say no to this, you can't say no to that. We're just going to have to get really smart about it, because Chuck Schumer will own anything in order to not send a single one of our bills to the president. Because he knows the president's going to veto it. And at that point, it's going to be too damaging for them. So they can control the narrative in the Senate. But
may I ask you a quick question? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know you said you only have 10 minutes, and I want to make sure the others also have time. After what happened this weekend, could I possibly ask you, when you do go back in, to speak to these folks and ask them to remember the images that they saw online and realize that that could be any one of us Americans that they saw slaughtered from all these people that are now in the country, and maybe get off their asses respectfully
Sweet
and do
Pea,
something about it?
I'll give you an update. That's probably not what you wanted to hear, but we don't even need to imagine it being Americans because it's been confirmed that dozens of the victims are American citizens that were killed in Israel over the last 48 hours. So if you take it into account, that enough should show you that we are dying. American citizens are dying already. So it's a matter of when, not if, it's going to happen here. And I think you're right. And I look. One thing about me is I'm very communicative and I talk to people and I don't shut up and I don't take no for an answer. So I talk to as many of my colleagues as humanly possible and I try to get in front of them with all these things all the time. It's just this place is I can't wait to write a book about it because I think nobody's ever depicted the swamp for what it truly is because they all left Congress and actually became lobbyists. So it would be counterproductive for them and their bottom lines to actually write the truth about this place. But one day I'll be able to talk about it in a more free manner, and I think you'll all understand what took place here.
Thank you for
But
taking my question. I
thank you,
appreciate
Sweet
it.
Pea. Appreciate you. Mark, I'll default back to you for the last two people who get to ask a question.
Okay, we'll do Miss G then Brick. So go ahead, Miss G.
Hi, Mr. Santos. How are you?
How are you, Miss G?
I'm good. A little disturbed at my country, but what are we going to do? I'm going to make this real quick. Two things I want to tell you. When 9/11 happened, I was a mother with two young kids and very concerned. So when they came out with the Patriot Act and everything, I thought it would be a great idea because, we need to be safe as Americans, and I want my kids to have a safe country to grow up in. When it turned out it was being used against us, and now primarily, especially people like me, people that, push back against what's going on in our schools, who support an America First agenda. It is a severe issue. And I just want to implore you that you have to understand and let it be known in Congress that there are people in this country that will refuse to vote for anyone who increases the surveillance of the people of this country because it's been nefariously turned against us. That's number one. Number two, where was I going with this? I'm sorry, I'm exhausted. I want to just point, since it lost me at the moment, to what Cliff said in your discussion with Cliff. I think everyone should know, and especially people like me from New York would understand this more. The left has been going far left for a long time. I left it a long time ago as a New Yorker. If Cliff thinks, or if there is anyone else in this room that thinks there is a way for the party to come back to center, you're sadly mistaken. Democrats are now being voted in. They're actually activists, and the younger the party gets, the more activists your party is voting in. So unfortunately, that would be a wonderful dream and hope for the betterment of and just by what Mr. Santos just relayed to you, with 100 progressives in your party and growing, it's not going to happen. As for the other point I was trying to make, because I did not expect with Sweepy's extra remarks, I'll just have to leave it there for now. But thank you for hearing me. And remember, we do not need to be policed more because unfortunately it is not the bad people that are getting policed. It's just regular Americans. Let's just close the border and be done with this now.
Miss G, you can always inbox me directly, and we can figure it out. What it is you forgot there. So just let me know in private, and I'll be glad to answer whatever it is you were thinking.
Thanks, guys. Last one for you, Congressman, is none other than Brick Suit. Go ahead, Brick.
Well, I just barely
Brick, are you
made it
there?
in. I'm having some problems with spaces here. Congressman Santos, I just want to say I heard earlier someone's mic is on, but I'll just go ahead and keep on going here. You talked about the need to deport people if there's a threat, and I just want to add that absent any threat, all of the bulk of the illegal aliens who have entered our country in the last few years, uh, all need to be deported simply just for breaking the law, even if there is no present threat. And I understand there's a huge logjam in that. And I would like to see, to the extent that it can be, that it can be put forward, some form of additional funding for the court systems, because now they're in the states legitimately now under the Biden regime. That that there's no way going about that, and their deportation hearings are going to need to take place. There's going to be a need for more funding for those courts, those judges, those magistrates, and that process. And like I said, absent any threat, I believe the deportations need to begin, and that funding for that mechanism needs to be increased greatly. And that's basically all I wanted to add to the conversation.
Brick, it's great that you say that. I think I'm the only Republican that's out there and saying this, and I've gotten a little pushback from folks, but we need to expand the immigration courts. We have 700 judges in this entire country that see and hear all these immigration cases. There's backlogs in immigration up to 14 years back for people trying to legally petition their family members to come here. And the notion that we think we're going to get through with this by just throwing money at the issue, no, we need to expand the immigration courts. We need to expand USCSI, not the IRS. That's really what we need to do, because that's how we can process folks. And if they qualify for asylum, go ahead, you're in, you stay. If you don't qualify, sorry, you got to go. Initiate removals proceeding. And here's the problem. Whenever we say to somebody, you have to go, we initiate removals proceeding, but we don't enforce the law of detaining them. We release them in their own personal recognizance, and we give them a 30-day honor code system to remove themselves, right? Because we're trying to avert the cost of the deportation. But in the reality that we're in today, we should just really go back to upholding the law. We detain and deport, because it's the only way we get a guarantee that we're getting them out of here. And look, don't forget, even when we deport them, they always find a way back. I spoke with an ICE agent in Newark, New Jersey about 6 months ago. Just had a casual I spoke with the ICE agent. He happens to be from Newark, New Jersey, based in Newark, New Jersey. And he said, dude, he told me a wild story about this Brazilian guy. Funny enough, I come from a Brazilian family. He's like, dude, I catch this guy for beating his girl, has an arrest warrant on him. He's illegal. We go ahead, pull him. He gets arrested. We put an ICE hold on him, pull him out, which is extremely rare, by the way, in the state of New Jersey, to put an ICE hold on somebody. He puts an ICE hold on him, gets him out, takes him to immigration detention, deports him. He literally said 30 days later, he's just doing a random patrol in the middle of Newark, and he recognizes a guy walking on the street. He stops a car, pulls a reverse, and literally comes out the car and says, dude, I just deported you a month ago. And detains the guy again and deports him again. He said, look, obviously chances are he's back here already. It's a revolving door. The Biden administration's policy is so toxic. It's so crazy. It just brews recidivism, and there's just no way to escape it, it seems, at least not without changing the way that we uphold the law. But Brick, you're right. We need to expand those courts so we can process these people quicker and faster. Instead of giving them court dates for 8 years from now, we should be giving them court dates for 2 weeks from the day that they're met for the first time. That's literally what I think the threshold should be. The tolerance should be no more than 2 months. And if it gets to a point of 2 months, you need to start moving through those faster period. These are simple hearings. These are not complicated. Crypto, you're an attorney. I know you're not an immigration attorney, but correct me if I'm wrong. These are simple readings. Immigration hearings. Immigration law is so objective. There's very little room for interpretation when it comes to the matter of, do you qualify for asylum? Yes or no? Because
Yeah.
there's boxes you got to check, and if you don't check them, and if you do check them, you got to prove them, and if you can't prove them, you can't check them.
Yeah, I mean, why we have court dates out so far, I really don't know. I mean, being in the DOJ prior, I can tell you that even in Florida, I had like every day pretty much, like literally every day from magistrate court in the morning, every day we would have people with aggravated reentry charges, and they would go off to the Bureau of Prisons, and then they would be deported. But again, that was a prior time. That was under Trump when I was doing that stuff. They're not doing it now. And the other thing is, for the immigration, it's literally paperwork. Very few people actually have hearings, and it's even fewer people that actually attend their hearings. So it's either you qualify on paper or you don't. And then if the judge calls it up for a hearing, you have a hearing. But most of the people that I know that deal with this have attorneys that are my friends, that I know them, and they go to these hearings. Speaking to my friends who are immigration attorneys, most of them never show up. You never see them again.
Well, here's the reality, because the moment they don't qualify on paper, it's too risky for them to show up in person, because there's always the fear and the potential risk of detention. So the moment they know they don't qualify on paper, why bother showing up to the hearing, which then obviously backlogs the court system, backlogs the entire dockets that sit on these judges' desks, because obviously if you don't show up to your court hearing, you can put a order to show cause to reschedule, and then when you put that order to show cause, it pushes it back years, right? So these guys also learn how to play our system and buy time. We need to have this fixed by expanding the system, because then the dockets are going to be shorter, and means judges will be cycle through them quicker. That's just the reason I keep advocating for this. And if there's anywhere in this country today that we should be putting money, is in the immigration courts expansion of CBP, expansion of ICE. These are all organizations that require expansion in order to meet the demand and capacity. When I was at the southern border and I met with CBP, they said that their number one issue today is retention and recruitment. Retention, it was simple. Everybody that qualifies to retire, even though these guys are still in their 40s, they're done. They don't want to be wrestling with these brazen crazy sons of bitches that come into our country anymore. They don't want to be putting their lives at risk. They have kids at home. They just don't. And then recruitment is at an all-time low, because the morale with law enforcement in our country is garbage. You have politicians going to El Paso to shame the freaking CBP officers by saying that they're treating these people inhumanely. I mean, these people put themselves in this position to begin with. They put their kids in this position to begin with. Like, every time I see a news article about kids drowned in the Rio Grande or dead in a box truck suffocated, that pisses me off. Those kids didn't need to die, but the irresponsibility of these adults bringing them here, just it's jaw dropping, and it's absolutely insane. But anyway, Crypto, Mark, Cliff, thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to be in the space one more time. Kyle's gone, but if you all see him, say thank you to Kyle. Sarah, thanks for the insight that you shared. I think it's about coming on these spaces, and I'll repeat this. I always learn something. I always come out of here more knowledgeable than when I entered. So even if I might say something you all don't agree with, or I might need checking, as clearly, Mark made it clear he was going to check me today. This is what this dialogue is for, and I encourage more colleagues of mine every day to do this, because the more you're talking with regular Americans who are out there, the more in touch with reality you are, because I refuse to become one of these Washington jargon speaking politicians that have no clue what a gallon of milk back home costs, other than whatever political rhetoric they're spewing off of their talking points. So that's probably why I still go grocery shopping myself in person, and I don't use Instacart. So that's
Congressman, I got 30 seconds for you. Is obviously I appreciate you coming and doing this, but the congressmen that the few, you're one of them, the very few that come in here and speak with us and listen with us and argue with us, every one of them I've gained incredible increase in respect for them. And I've said it publicly. I said, listen, I've spoke to Matt Gaetz. I've spoken to George Santos. These guys are a lot different than they're portrayed. So my point is, I think it's worth it, and I'm glad you're doing it. So thank you.
Oh no, look, I appreciate you for saying that, and I really do. It's humbling to hear that. I ran for office because I wanted to make a difference, and I believe that I had the ideas, and I believe that I had the passion to do so. And I fully understand and know that I don't know everything. I'm not an expert in everything. I'm good at what I'm at. I'm good at it, and I'm not at what I'm not. But the reality is, I have an undying desire to serve this country legislatively and to put the best policies forward that I can. And I have a little fun while I'm doing it too. So hey, I mean, my fire alarm thing, come on guys, that was a PSA worthy of gold. If you go on my official page, every kid in America should watch that.
No, that's true. And the last thing,
or not only that, crypto, and every congressperson should definitely watch.
right. So just so you know, we have now, so pulling a fire alarm is no longer called pulling a fire alarm. It's now called Bowman. So like, go do that. You've now, like, did he just Bowman us? You know, something like that. So for now on, it's no more pulling the fire alarm. We're changing Bowman into a verb.
That's funny. Well, anyway, look.
And before you go, I was just going to ask if you can talk to Jared Moskowitz. I'd love to have him or another Democrat come in here, or even in another space. But
dude, Jared's a family man. These spaces run way too late. I want to venture to say that I'm not speaking for him, but he's a dad. I don't know that Jared Moskowitz would be up here at 12:30 with us, but I'll definitely relay the message. Jared's a real easygoing guy. I don't know if you guys saw the little exchange we had during the expulsion vote, but him and Jamie Raskin, which I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, Jamie Raskin is one of the nicest people I've ever met. Obviously, I disagree with him fundamentally on every single aspect of policy, but I respect the man. I'm happy he also recovered from his cancer treatment. I think the moment we lose the humanity to be able to wish well and good health on on my colleagues on the other side, and I think then we're dead inside. So Jamie Raskin was joking with Jared Moskowitz and said, Jared, I bet you when Santos was speaker, none of this happened. So Jared comes up to me and says, George, when you were speaker, this didn't happen. I'm like, and that is precisely why I don't want to be speaker again. Because this shit wouldn't fly with me. And Jamie Raskin was taken aback by that. So he tweeted about it. It actually made news. But I was just trying to make light of a moment that was just going to be historically unprecedented and insane. So definitely there is some collegial exchanges that are lighthearted. But I'll actually extend the invitation to Moskowitz and
Raskin works too. I'm an equal opportunity Jewish guy. I don't care which one of them you
get. Here's the deal. I don't think Raskin would play too well with this crowd. And I'll say this, Raskin is one tough debater. I mean, you've all watched him on C-SPAN. I've watched it live. That man is a tough cookie to go up against. Crypto, you wouldn't want him here. It is not easy to do.
Mr. Santos, I just want to interject here as somebody who's in the Ukrainian armed forces. I know we have vast differences with that. As someone who is a libertarian leftist, we also have differences on that. But speaking of coming in and speaking with a crowd, I appreciated you the few times I've seen you in these spaces, and I'm very grateful for what you said, which was that you're trying to still be connected to the American people, the American taxpayer, because all our representatives need to. So thank you.
I mean, taxpayer pays our salaries. I think it's the least we can do is actually listen to them. And Sarah, I wish you well in your pursuit there for justice. I hope you understand, and I'll leave you all with this. I am not against Ukraine. I am just very troubled by the amount of money that has been sent to Ukraine with very little transparency. I am very much equal hater of Putin as everyone else, but I don't agree with the same rhetoric, such as Senator Graham saying every Russian dead is a good thing. I don't think anybody dead is a good thing. I think life is precious and we should respect it that way, no matter where conflict is. But my issue with Ukraine is not Ukraine. I don't think what's happening there is right. I just don't think we can continuously send unlimited amounts of money to Ukraine without any accountability, especially when the First Lady of Ukraine buys $1 million worth of Cartier jewelry a couple of weeks ago when she's in New York. That's the problem I have with, and I understand that they were celebrities before he became president and they were already independently wealthy, but it just doesn't, Sarah, I hope you understand, it does not sit well with the American people. So that
Yes,
is.
sir. I get that. And when some of your colleagues in the Senate have requested more oversight, I'm a firm believer in having as much oversight as the U.S. Representatives and senators demand, because we are as transparent as possible here. And ultimately, and I said this when Breitbart had covered some of my work here, ultimately the responsibility comes down to the American taxpayer, because it's the American taxpayers' dollars that are helping carry out this war for liberty and liberation. And you, as the steward of the US budget, ultimately has to look at everything as closely as possible. And what our job is to be as transparent as possible in showing you and your colleagues that the money is being wisely spent and well spent.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what's been failed to transpire. And that's why you see this stark resistance and opposition. But it's nobody here is pro Putin. Nobody here is like, yay, yay, Russia. I think that that's the worst rhetoric out there, pushed on by, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But again, I wish you well there, and wish you health and good luck, and may God be with you there, and all the work you guys are putting through, and that you come out victorious, and that everything you aim out to achieve is achieved, and we can come closer to closing that conflict. And with that, guys, good night to everybody. You all rest up well. You have plenty of spaces coming up this week because it's going to be a very interesting week. Crypto, you better be on Red Bull because it's not, you ain't sleeping much for the next couple of days.
We'll talk soon, Congressman. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.